Hey guys, thanks for joining me on my third episode. Today, I'm super excited for Fee to share her story and how she got the entrepreneur spirit and how she is giving people life with fitness and flexibility. So, without further ado, Fee, welcome to Flight of Fancy.
Thanks, Courtney. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you.
So let's just jump right on in. So, Fee, can you just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Again, my name is Felicia, but everybody calls me Fee. And I am originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, moved to the eastern part of the state to attend East Carolina University, and still live on the eastern part of the state. I majored in economics and communications, and then got my master's in economics. So I teach online at three universities currently right now. So I've been teaching almost 10 years. Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Almost 10 years. Saying it out loud makes it real. And I also am a 500 hour, registered yoga teacher. And that just essentially means that I went for a 200-hour training, which kind of just sets you up to be able to teach, and then an additional 300 hours for more focused learning. You kind of get to choose, what aspect of yoga you would like to learn more about. And mine was very heavy in philosophy and inversions. Other than that, I am also a kidney transplant recipient, which I am very, very excited about because otherwise I wouldn't be talking on the podcast right now. So
Yes.
yeah, so it was really great. May 5th, 2016, my cousin essentially saved my life. We had our transplant surgery on a Thursday, and by that Sunday, all we cared about was can we leave so we can go watch Game of Thrones.
Nice.
That kind of lets by God's grace, everything went fine. So that was good. And now as I stated previously, I still teach online. I teach yoga, and I still go home fairly often because most of my friends are still in the Charlotte area and giving me full court pressure to move back home. But I think I'm kind of becoming a big fish in a small pond here in Greenville, which is kind of nice. So I think I'll stay put for a little bit.
Okay, wow. That is one hell of an introduction from the education to being a kidney recipient and then jumping into yoga. But I definitely want to talk about each one of those. But I just want to go back to your educational background. A lot of times we decide what we want to do, and then here comes graduation, and then it's like, it's the real world. What do I do now? So I just want to know, did you, upon graduation, did you jump into the job market and actually use your degree? So just guide me through your educational process and what led you to jump into economics.
Absolutely, Courtney. If I'm going to be honest with you. I was not two of my closest friends, I feel like from kindergarten to second grade, like I've always known what they wanted to do. One is currently an anchor on television, like she always knew she would be, and the other one is an artist, like she always knew she would be. And I was just always like, I just want to be fabulous, and I don't know how that's going to happen. And it was my junior year, actually, and I had not declared a major. And a professor of mine, he kept it real with me. So I'm going to keep it real with you and your listeners. And, white male. And he looked at me with those blue eyes and he said, "You are a Black woman and you are good at math and you are good at economics. And there aren't many minorities in this field. And I think that you need to major in economics." And 19-year-old me was just like, okay. And so Dr. Parker, rest his soul, he actually just passed last year. He was the reason I majored in economics. And because it was kind of late in the game, by my senior year, by graduation, I still didn't really have a life plan. And so I was like, I'll just go to grad school and figure it out, not realizing that grad school, getting your master's in economics is really difficult. So I didn't really have time to make a plan. I just was trying to make my grades. But everything went fine. I started working in banking, started working in nonprofits, all the while typically doing actually more finance stuff than econ, but I was working at a nonprofit when a friend of mine just came over to me and said, they're looking for econ teachers at this school where I teach online. And this is, like I said, 10 years ago when online learning still kind of had a stigma about it. Like, are the classes really good? Is it, are these schools accredited? All that kind of thing. And so I was able to get in and start teaching with my master's degree. So the good thing about teaching online is that at least I feel like I'm utilizing my education. Even though I love what I do, I love the fact that I can do something like economics from home or Starbucks or Panera or wherever I am. And then within 2 hours, I'm someplace teaching a class, a gentle class, a restorative class, kind of a all levels yoga class. And it's nice to have that balance in my life. But I learned that apparently my passion is teaching. I teach econ, I teach yoga, and I'm even on the teaching ministry at my church. So I think in part knowledge on others, watching that light bulb kind of come on when they get it, is I live for that and I love it, seemingly regardless of the subject matter.
Yes, I definitely agree with you. It is something to be said for, those individuals that take the time to foster the development in other people. And with yoga, with you being an instructor, yoga has that vibe of being zen and centered and being with yourself. And you mentioned having that kidney transplant. So, do you think having that transplant sparked your interest into getting into yoga?
Absolutely. Again, being transparent, I'm not what people would consider a gym rat by any means. I was active when I was younger. I ran track for like 5 minutes and I cheered my whole life. I was in marching band and it was like the high step, kind of that HBCU version of marching band. And that, was kind of, I was on the step team. So I wasn't really intentionally trying to be fit. I was just active. And then when I got to college, I cheered. I coached cheerleading in a couple of junior highs, middle schools, and high schools around town. I was on the step team once again, on the Black Student Union dance team, things like that. And then in 2010, when I got diagnosed with kidney disease and my kidneys were functioning at 21%, and I was just tired. I noticed I was just tired all the time. The only thing I did physically was I was still on the dance team at my church, or the dance ministry rather. Practice was once a week, and we only danced on occasion. And that was just a way for me to stay somewhat active without overexerting myself. By 2015, 2016, when I had to go on dialysis, I just knew, depression just really, really set in. And I was like, I've got to figure out a way to control these thoughts. I was crying on the way to dialysis, crying in dialysis, crying on the way home from dialysis. I was just bad off. And anyone who knows me well, knows I like to consider myself a relatively joyful, happy person. And it frustrated me that I was letting this get to me that way. And, but at the same time, we're all human and everybody has limits. And I think I had just reached one of mine. That was just really, really a tough time for me. And that's where either you want to say I found yoga or yoga found me. I feel like it was a little bit of the same. And by the time I had my transplant, prior to that, I was just doing classes on YouTube. And then after my transplant, I started doing face-to-face yoga at the wellness center that's connected to the local hospital here. Just to start moving slow, I was going every Tuesday, and then it was Tuesday and Thursday, and it was Monday, Tuesday. I was eventually going 4 or 5 days a week and just fell in love with it. And one of the teachers asked me, had I ever thought about yoga teacher training? And at the time, it was swirling around in the back of my mind. But I thought to myself, Felicia, you don't have to jump to the leadership role of everything you do, because I'm kind of that person. And I was like, just for once, just be a student, just chill, just go to the gym like a regular person. But something about her asking me and just seeing so adamant that I would do well in it led me to seek a local studio to do yoga teacher training. So I got my 200-hour with Samantha Harrison Yoga here in Greenville. It was a 9-month period. We just met for a concentrated weekend. So it was full Friday, full Saturday, full Sunday for 9 months. And then I graduated with my 200 hour. And then just this past April, I spent the entire month of April in Costa Rica gaining my 300 hour earning rather, my 300-hour training with authentic movements. And that was definitely an experience being in the jungle. Or as people would say, I was in the jungle, like it was real. And today, actually, it's so interesting we're doing this podcast today because today was kind of a full circle moment for me. It was the very first time I taught at the wellness center connected to the hospital. It'd been in the works for a while. And I've subbed a class or two, but today was the first day where it was my name on the schedule. It was my class. And it was surreal to be standing in the front of the room where I used to be a student. I mean, you're always a
Right,
student, but where
absolutely.
I used to be a student waiting on the teacher to guide me on a journey through my body. And so it was just amazing that today I'm actually, coworkers or colleagues with those same teachers who encouraged me to go into yoga teacher training. So it's been a very awesome journey so far.
Yes, it certainly has been a journey. And I just really want to thank you for opening up to us. Sharing anything personal can sometimes be difficult, but you also spoke more in detail about depression, which is something that is really affecting a lot of people. And just by you sharing your story, I hope it helps someone who is listening. But not only that, it's definitely something that we should have a conversation about. Having the right mental state is everything. For me, I finally took the leap and decided to see a therapist, which I'm so grateful for, with certain things that have gone on in my life, which I do plan on sharing down the road on other episodes. But, a lot of people may not realize that they are in that state. But I think it's very necessary for people to either talk to somebody or write it out, just get those feelings out because not being right upstairs can truly affect the rest of your well being and how you operate on a daily basis.
Yeah, I just actually the other day found the lady's card in my purse where I've been meaning to because I was in therapy. I started therapy, or let me rephrase that. I made an appointment for therapy while I was on dialysis. And then my cousin was approved to be my donor. And I made the mistake of thinking that my mental state was just wrapped up in getting a transplant. I thought to myself, oh, well, once I get the transplant, then I'll be fine. So I kept my appointment with her, because I'd already made it, but I felt like, oh, I'm not going to need you in a little bit. I got my kidney, I'm good. But post operative depression is real. And Courtney, I'm telling you, I felt so bad because I felt so blessed that someone literally cut themselves open to save my life. And I never wanted anyone to think I was being ungrateful. So I very rarely shared my feelings just with my closest friends. But, the medication that you take after you have a transplant, you're on medication for the rest of your life to make sure that your body doesn't reject the organ. Well, the side effects from this medication are weight gain, acne, hair loss, hand tremors, like all types of things. And so, again, trying to be my jovial self, I just looked up to the sky and I was like, okay, God, so I'm single in these streets. So I'm going to just basically be a fat, bald woman with acne, with hands trembling for like the
Oh my
rest of my
gosh.
life. What is this? But I have a good team of doctors, and they just assured me it's just going to take my body time to get used to the medication. And if I'm honest, even 3 years out, I still struggle with those things at times, and I have to say things to myself. Would I rather have a couple of, bumps on my face and not as much hair as I used to, but be able to live? Or would I rather have perfect skin and perfect hair in a coffin? And sometimes I have to just bring myself back to that. But at the same time, understanding that my feelings are valid and they're real in that moment, and to let myself feel them, but not wallow in them.
Absolutely. I know you said you were seeing a therapist at the time, but were there other avenues that you decided to explore to help ease your mind a little bit?
Uh, I at the time, um, I mean, I can kind of jump into this now, but part of it was I had a regular 9 to 5 job when I had my transplant. And, I had my FMLA for my 3 months. And, without naming the company, when I called to go back to work, they said, I'm sorry, you were supposed to come back last week. And I'm thinking, no, my FMLA form clearly says I'm supposed to come back next week. And, I called the insurance company that was doing my short term disability. And long story short, I realized that they were kind of in cahoots. And you hear these things all the time that corporate companies are always trying to get rid of employees that are sick because they're expensive. And I am one of those people. I can actually say I know what that feels like. Anytime you've barely been with the company for a year and they're offering you a severance package, that lets you know right then that even they know they just want to get rid of you. And it became not about trying to figure out how to fight for my job so much as it became fighting for the best severance package so that I could kind of live the remainder of that year while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. So in a way, even though in that moment, that was a whole nother level of depression, Courtney, because my medication is super, super expensive. And it was a really trying time that I thought to myself, okay, I just had this life saving surgery. And now I can't even go back to work to not only earn a paycheck, but to have benefits to afford this medication. What am I going to do? I mean, thank goodness for grant programs and um, thank goodness for Medicare. Thank goodness for disability and things like that. So, in a way, to answer your question, at that time, I couldn't afford to go to therapy. I couldn't afford to do any of that. When, if I'm honest, probably was when my depression was probably at the highest. It was probably when I really needed to talk to someone. And so, luckily, I have, friends and family who were there, who listened. But like I said, I mean, once I got on the patient assistance program, was able to get my medication at a good rate. And one thing about having kidney disease is if you have it and you have a transplant, you're automatically guaranteed disability for 3 years. And so that's how I was able to survive, or I'm going to say live, but essentially survive. Because even during that time, I was only teaching like one class at a time. Whereas in right now, I'm teaching 5. So it just seemed like in that moment, nothing was, kind of going my way, if you will. But if it hadn't been for that, if it had not been for them, that particular company not wanting me, I don't know that we would be having this conversation right now. I could possibly have still been in my 2x4 cubicle. I don't know. So it's amazing how we don't always know the plan for our lives at the moment, but things, there are no accidents, as they say, and things happen for a reason. And looking back on it, hindsight is 2020. I'm glad I'm not at that company anymore.
Yes, everything definitely happens for a reason. In the moment, we may not know why, but we definitely see the picture at some point. But, it's probably for the best that you are not there
Absolutely.
because who knows what they're willing to do to save a buck, especially when they pull that stunt with you. But, we talked about your journey and it's been an amazing one. But what are some things or some people that keep you motivated and inspired, especially with you starting your company or your LLC, pushing for higher excellence?
Originally, it was actually PSP Image Consulting. So this is my second go round trying to start a business. And Courtney, I think you can relate to that.
Oh, yeah, I
Having
can
trying
definitely
to get it
relate.
right. And which, of course, at the time is frustrating, but those are lessons that you learn, to move forward and do better. So what ended up happening is that business, I mean, I would have 1 or 2 clients, but it just wasn't enough to sustain me. And then I didn't do anything, hence why I was back, at a 9 to 5. And then after everything happened, I said, I think it'll probably be cheaper for me to just change the name of that LLC than to try to formulate a new one. So I just changed PSP Image Consulting to essentially Fee LLC, pushing for higher excellence, PHE. And what was great about my initial starting a business is that I learned I just can't do everything on my own, which I know sometimes a lot of business owners try to do. I was trying to do my website, trying to do my marketing, trying to do my logo, trying to do everything. Girl, it looked like my cat did it. I mean, it
Oh
was
no.
horrible. It was so bad. So now with Fee LLC, it's more or less kind of a blanket LLC for maybe anything else I may want to do underneath. But there are four areas in particular that I am pushing because it's pushing for higher excellence. And the four is the number four. And the four areas that I'm always trying to improve in my life are my faith, my focus, my fitness, and my food. So luckily, my yoga, which is Fit Fee Yoga, if you want to go to my website or find me on Instagram, that's the arm that falls under the fitness leg of pushing for higher excellence. So that's kind of how all of that came together. I was like, I kind of already have an LLC. Let me, instead of making my LLC Fit Fee Yoga, I said, let me just focus on all the things I'm trying to improve on. The other ones, as of now, are more or less going to be blog posts, and the fitness is the one where that I could monetize, if you
Yes, so I did hear you drop that plug.
will.
But guys, don't worry. I will have all that information for you so you can find her on all
Thanks.
social outlets that she's currently on. I definitely understand where you're coming from when you say you want to do everything yourself. I mean, it is like your baby. You just want to make sure it looks right, it looks good, it's up to your standards. But
Yes.
sometimes we have to learn how to let go and let people assist where they can help us the most.
Yeah, outsourcing is great. And living in a college town, just let me anybody listening, if you live in a college town or near a college town, find a student who just needs an internship, even if it's unpaid. I mean, my assistant that I had that was a student at ECU, I mean, he was awesome. And all he needed was a number of hours and for me to write a letter at the end, stating what he did and how well he completed his tasks. So sometimes you're able to find help and it's not expensive, or maybe, in the words of Kanye West, free 99. So definitely look in your area, and see what, tools that you can utilize that may not be as much as you think.
So definitely go out and maximize your resources. But that is some great advice. Thank you for that. But are there any books or podcasts that you're either reading or listening to right now where you kind of pull to get some inspiration or motivation to keep you moving in your journey?
Yes. I the most recent books that I have completed and the one I'm starting that I really, really liked, Big Magic, and I apologize, I do not remember the author, but Big Magic, it's just a quick read, but it's just to remind you of what you can do and what you're capable of, and kind of how to tap into that big magic to make your dream come true. So I really enjoyed reading that book. Another book I most recently finished that I think I'm going to reread is called One Thing. Without giving away everything, I mean, it's essentially showing you how to dream big and then kind of dial it down to digestible pieces that you can do. What can you do every day? What can you do every week? What can you do every month? To reach whatever your goals are. The One Thing is a really good book. And I just recently, not to name drop, but I just recently went to a book signing with Common. Yes, he
Ooh,
hugged me.
yes,
And
Common.
and his new book, Let Love Have the Last Word. I haven't finished it yet, but I love it. As great as leadership books and self help books are, for me personally, one of my favorite things to read are biographies. I love learning how people got to where they are in their journey. And sometimes you learn things, even if they didn't write the book with that intention, there's so many things that you can learn from someone's story. And so I haven't finished his book yet, but so far, a really, really good read. I just, in my Amazon cart arriving Wednesday, Right to the Point. Apparently, these are books that were recommended to me, so I haven't read them yet. But Right to the Point is a great book if you want to improve your writing, which I do just because I intend to include more blogs on my website. I got one called The Leadership Lessons of Jesus. Of course, this is, only if that's something that you would like to read based on your individual faith. And then I have one that says how to succeed in business without being white. And of course, that might be more for your minority population, because sometimes business maneuvers are very different if you are a woman or if you are a person of color, if you're part of the LGBTQ community. Sometimes there are just things that we have to maneuver that other people don't. So those are three books that were recommended to me that I'm excited to get. Luckily, they're coming Wednesday, so hopefully I can dig into them over this 4th of July weekend.
Yes, right on time.
Yes, right on time.
I love the point you made about books giving insight to one's journey, regardless of the intent. A lot of times it's what we take away from the book that gives us our own perspective and gives us more insight on maybe how to do things or improve certain aspects of our lives. Which takes me back to the book that you mentioned, which I would like to get my hands on and read, but How to Succeed in Business If You're Not White. Definitely as a minority, we do have to move a certain way, and maybe set ourselves up for success where our counterparts, it's different for them. But it kind of brings me to the point for you. You were revamping your LLC, and I just want to know what successes have you experienced as well as any failures that may have come about as you were moving through this second phase of your business.
I would say something that I used to really pride myself on not thinking much about kind of hit me, and that's comparison. And there's a quote that says, comparison is the thief of joy. And that is just the honest to goodness truth. And I think for me, personally, I think the invent of social media has probably, part of what has kind of brought that into my being. And as we all know, with everything, there's pros and cons to everything. And there's wonderful things I have found and wonderful people that I have found on social media. But sometimes it's hard not to scroll and compare yourself to someone else, and just kind of reminding myself that that's reminding myself of two things. Number one, that's most likely the highlight reel of their life. They're probably, unless they're intentionally transparent, probably not showing the downfalls. And that number two, people are only going to show you what they want you to see, which kind of is a very similar concept. And also you don't know what the work was that took them to get there. So they might not even start posting until they're already popping. You have no clue that they were doing the small things, the boring things, and being consistent for 10 years before they got to, 500,000 followers on Instagram. And so I think for me, it's not comparing myself to other people, and other people's journeys, trying to appreciate where I am in my journey, and also realizing I don't need everyone. I just need my people, if that makes any sense.
I definitely understand where you're coming from. I was listening to Lovey's podcast, and her one guest said, not everyone in your circle is on your team. And I thought that was a very profound statement.
A lot of times, like my yoga teachers, for instance, in Costa Rica, I think both of them have somewhere near 500,000 or 400,000 followers. And the thing about it is, it was only 30 of us in Costa Rica. There were only 30 slots. So yes, they have that many people, but for them to do what they do and earn money and live, there were only 30 of us there. So I can't just keep paying attention to the likes, to the follows and all of that. The people who are going to gravitate towards what I'm offering, my tribe, if you will, they will find me, and then I will be I will be successful on my terms, not on the terms that society places on us, not based on how many followers I have, how many likes I got on said post. What matters is how many people are coming to my classes, how many people are reaching out to me for private yoga, how many people are registering for my workshops, for my retreats and things of that nature, and just trying to stay focused on that. And when I see people on Instagram celebrating them instead of coveting what they have.
Yeah, it is really easy to get caught up in all the likes and the comments and all that, but I definitely believe that staying true to yourself and true to your brand is what will set you apart from other people. And of course, word of mouth is the best tool to have people come flock to you. But
Hmm.
yeah, definitely keeping it authentic and true to yourself is a major key when it comes to building your brand. I definitely, like me starting out, like, yeah, I would love to have that following and everything like that. But you also hear about people buying followers. Like, that is bizarre to me. Like, I don't want to have to buy, followers. I don't buy my friends. So why would I buy people that I have no idea who they are? I want to grow my business and grow it organically so it can continue to be sustainable for many years to come. But keeping on that same strand of keeping things authentic and just growing organically, what advice would you have to someone who is either starting out or someone who is still sitting on that idea of thinking of creating their business?
I would say accountability. And what I mean by that is maybe having someone in your life that you share your goals with, and sometimes that's not necessarily your best friend or your parent or your sibling. It needs to be someone who, when you said, I'm going to have this done by this date, and if you don't, they're going to be like, what happened? Why isn't it ready? When will it be ready? I mean, with love, but kind of firm but fair, if you will. And having someone that will help you kind of stick to a timeline. And sometimes, like small goals, not that I know if anybody's really paying attention or keeping tabs on me in that way, but sometimes I will post certain goals online, on my page, because I also feel like, okay, if I told all these people I'm gonna do this, I need to do it. And there's also, tons of posts that are like, move in
Real
silence,
G's moving
and all of
silent.
that. And some things you should, absolutely. Some things you need to keep to yourself and just keep grinding it out and then show us the finished product. But sometimes little goals I will post, on my story or on my page, just as a way to keep me accountable to things that I know I want to accomplish. And just going back to the outsourcing and just how important that is. Utilizing friends and family that you feel are reliable. I used my best friend from second grade to do my logo. I reached out to a friend of mine who we kind of have a joint venture. We do like a little, well, I shouldn't say little. I mean, it's a magazine, it's an award show, it's all these things that we did for Eastern North Carolina. And he does websites. I reached out to him to do my website. I've reached out to people that I know to do my photography for my website. So also utilizing people that are already in your circle that have skills that you need to help make your dream come true. Because most people want to help. And honestly, once my website is live, I'm gonna post them. Leah did um, my logo. Greg did my website. Ryan did my pictures. Because what I'm hoping is if people like what they see, then they'll patronize my friends.
Right. And to your point, like, it just only builds your circle and it just helps to continue to bounce ideas off of one another. And at the end of the day, you just want to see each other win, so being able to highlight and showcase your friends, like your inner circle, it's only going to benefit everyone that much more.
Absolutely.
Sophie, we've talked about a lot of different things, and I'm pretty sure everybody wants to know what is to come in your journey with all the business ideas that you have and that you've pretty much laid out on this podcast. So we're probably going to hold you accountable and do some check ins here and there on you. So, can you just share a little bit about what's to come in your journey?
I actually have been really procrastinating on finishing a memoir. A friend of mine asked to be my writing coach. I mean, she has novels published, several, and they're available on Amazon and on her website. And so anytime someone who is successful asks, can they help you? You just say yes, at least I do. And, but I feel bad I've kind of dropped the ball on that. And so she doesn't know it, but my intention is to kind of complete at least 3 or 4 chapters that I can send her and not continue wasting her time with these meetings to go over outlines and to go over things. And, I just haven't gotten around to it. But one of the things I would like to finish is my memoir. I mean, I'm ashamed to say, but she asked me about it before I was even on dialysis. And this past May was 3 years that I've had my transplant. But there's also a part of me that feels like, things happen for a reason. And if I had written that memoir when she asked me to, so much has happened and changed since then that now I actually feel like I have a complete story to tell. And I'm excited about doing that. I'm also looking to do workshops, which would be more local to my area, unless anyone wants to hit me up and say, hey, come do a workshop in my town. I'm very open to that. And by workshop, I'm specifically talking yoga. And then I'm also looking to do several retreats, possibly this fall, but definitely in 2020. One, I'm doing a yoga retreat with one of my teachers, Samantha, actually, who I earned my 200-hour with. She and I are looking at doing a yoga retreat. I for sure would like to do a Pushing for Higher Excellence retreat. And I've already started reaching out to people that I want to speak on faith, to speak on focus, fitness and food. So I'm looking forward to planning that. Not sure where that will be held, but I would like to actually do it somewhere towards the beginning of 2020, but we'll see. So right now I'm looking at retreats, workshops, and really just finishing up this book.
Well, you are one determined individual, and if anyone can do it, it certainly can be done by you.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
Well, that puts episode 3 in the books. Fee had so many amazing endeavors to share, but please remember to like, comment, and share. But until the next episode, keep creating. Bye.